Hello nerds, welcome to the book hole. I'm in the seat again, which means it's time to do something on the PC. So today I thought it would be fun to have a look through a couple of Reddits. So we're going to look at r/books and r/fantasy, because sometimes there are posts where I don't feel like I have the time or energy to give the full reply that they deserve. And also, there are just some posts that need roasting. I'm sorry, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be a little bit mean. Potentially, we'll see. I don't have a favourite book. I love to read, minored in literature, currently work at a bookstore, and it breaks my heart that I actually don't have a favourite book. I'm on the spectrum and feel very structured by my favourites, favourite movie, TV show, colour, food, etc. But as much as I love to read, I just don't have a favourite book. I also tend to become very consumed by the media that I read or watch, and hate that I've never been ridiculously consumed by and one with a book. Anyone else have the same issue? So I kind of get this need and want to be really involved in something, because I'm in my 30s now, and one thing I really miss is when you're a teenager and you are just so into something, like everything is your favorite. If you discover a new author or like a new TV writer, then you go all in on everything that they make and you learn everything. Like, the amount of actors' names that I learned because they were in like my favorite movies, and then I would, I'd be so obsessed into actors that I'd watch everything that they made. Like I was so obsessed with Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire that I would try and find other films that Tobey Maguire was in and end up watching really random films. Something I kind of should do again, because it was a way to watch films I wouldn't have seen otherwise. Back to the topic. So, I really kind of miss that, because at this age, man, it's so hard to just like put the time and effort into something. I really miss the days where I could just rewatch a series over and over again and think nothing of watching like 4 or 5 seasons of a show just to catch up. Like I can't do it anymore. Like this, so this guy, there's some people, or girl, there's some people who, or they, there's some people who are saying there doesn't have to be a winner. That's fine. That's okay. Maybe just books are telling you to chill out. You don't have to pick just one. But like, I get what he means. Sorry, I've defaulted to he. I get what they mean, because like I said, it's nice to be really involved in something. So there's the potential that if they're on the spectrum, that there's something about books in particular that isn't triggering the same things in their head. I know that autism could be quite, I'm assuming that's what they mean on the spectrum. I know, what am I trying to say? Maybe just your flavor of being on the spectrum just means that your brain really attaches to, maybe like they attach to a lot of visual things, and maybe the words of a book hitting your brain are just not quite the same as everything else. So it could be that, or you actually just haven't found the one. I would maybe try and read a little bit outside the genres that you're reading, or go hard on. Do you have a favorite genre? If you have a favorite genre, try and learn more about the books in that genre and really hone in on the things that you really like about something. But I definitely recommend reading outside your genre, because you can always be surprised and you might suddenly find something you do get consumed by. Who knows? But good luck, my friend. I hope you do find a favourite book. Or learn to be zen about it and be okay with just enjoying reading and not being obsessed. What are the benefits of reading? Hopefully helping with your spelling. I'm sorry. It's too easy. It's right there. Lately, I've been going on a self-development journey and I've heard about how reading can help, but I haven't found the motivation to read books. I have plenty of books in my house. I have plenty of free time. The only thing missing is my personal it's the motivation to read. I hope by posting I will get the answers and the motivation I need. So, the first-person escapism, lovely, nice. One thing I love about reading is that you have to focus on the words. And I know that sounds weird, but by focusing on the words, it means you can't also scroll your phone at the same time. You know, you have to read the words, otherwise you're not reading. Whereas like passive things like listening to podcasts or watching TV, it's so much easier to get distracted, but getting into the flow of a book is such a nice feeling, and that will actually calm you down. It will help. I think it also helps raise your attention span a bit, or at least teaches your brain to associate this activity with not doing other things. So it's a great way to get away from screens for a bit. And that still counts with ebooks because they're a totally different screen. I don't count them as a screen. So there's that, and it's been known that just like a few minutes of reading will calm you down and improve your mood. It actually has been. I don't have the stats. Look for Murphy Napier's video. She did a great breakdown of this and actually pulled up the studies on this. You know, it actually improves your brain, and that's not just reading non-fiction, that's reading fiction as well. It improves your empathy. You know, people who read novels are actually way more likely to be empathetic. You know, so there's loads of benefits. However, like, obviously I love books, and me rediscovering my love for reading in a big way has meant that I've really tried to encourage other people to give it a try and get into it. At the same time, if you really don't want to, and there are other things in your life that you really want to do, it's fine. It's okay if you don't read. My partner has not read any books in his life. He's a very slow reader. When we met, I was disappointed to learn this, but he did tell me he'd read The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, and I said, well, that's enough for me. That's fine. To be fair, I did go in Lies of Lamora, and then he ended up living that. So give it a try. And don't just try one book, try a few, feel around. But if you're not feeling it, that's fine too. How do you deal with the quietness of reading? I struggle with reading at home as I don't feel comfortable with the absence of background noise. I guess I'm so used to the TV being on at night, it feels weird to sit in a quiet place like my living room and just read. Even my dog gets a little restless waiting for something to happen. That's just dogs though, isn't it? Yeah. You'd probably associated the TV being off with going for a walk. Like, that's probably what's happening. You know, my cat is sensitive to weird things like that. If, you know, me picking up the remote and doing something, she'll jump off my lap because she thinks I'm about to move. So that's probably what's going on. The dog thinks it's about to go for a walk. Yeah, get those lo-fi hip-hop radios on. There's so many videos that are like classical jazz coffee shop or Nintendo chill music. You know, get some of them on. If you feel weird about the TV being off, start with that. Where do you go to meet other book nerds in real life? You don't. If you're lucky, you'll have a bookstore near you that when you pop in, the staff will have a chat with you about books. That's most us book nerds have to look forward to. It's all we can expect from life, because you'll have friends you're trying to get into reading and they just don't care. Sorry, that's and when you do have a friend who's actually into reading, they're probably not going to be into the things that you like anyway. So yeah, all we have. That's why I've started this channel, because people in real life don't care about my books. I want to talk about everything at the end of Mistborn. I have no one to talk to about that ending. I need a podcast as well. I feel like this is necessary. I need like spoiler themed podcasts, because I need to. Anyway, yeah, suffer with us, or chat with people on Discord or Reddit. I know you said in real life, but it's not happening, buddy. It's not happening. Attention book lovers! Let me tell you a small story. My now ex-friend asked for a book, and I handed her one of my favourites. I trusted her enough to handle one of my books. A week later, she hands it back, and my mother and best friend saw the fire in my eyes when I saw what happened. I can't concentrate on what she said. Mind you, when I kept this book in perfect shape for multiple years, and it comes back in this condition. Spine absolutely destroyed. Pages either dogged or folded multiple times to mark it. Now, mind you, I gave her a bookmark. Lipstick. Cover ripped. I'm getting secondhand stress from this. Okay, I need to calm down before I continue. Wet. Because she thought it was a good idea to wash it. This can't be real. There's no way this is real. Wet because she thought it was a good idea to wash it in the washer after spilling spaghetti sauce on it and never bothered to dry it so it's still wet. The audacity for her to say, what, it's not that bad. My own mother has a hobbyback, and I asked if she could buy me another copy, and she's like, what, it's not my book, I hate it anyways. To be in middle school again. I'm pressing, is it X or F's out? I'm pressing X to doubt. But assuming that this is real, oh man, yeah, don't be friends with someone who can't respect your things. This person is an animal. This friend is an animal. If this actually happened, you know, I think the parents need to teach her how to just like be a human being again. Because, I mean, like, the folding things, I don't like it. And I won't let my partner do it in my books, but if he wants to do it in his books, that's up to him, and I get it. Some people do it. And some people might not think it's a big deal and need to learn that. But lipstick. Cover ripped. Tell you what, if find something of hers that she likes and ask to borrow it. And then you know what to do. Cover it in ragu. What makes H.P. Lovecraft unique? The racism. Just started reading The Call of Cthulhu, and I'm pretty interested in this author, but I don't have any idea how and when will the gigantic outer gods and huge monsters will be introduced. The only creature of this type that I encountered in this book is Nyarlathotep, entity that makes me curious and raises my interest for Lovecraft's texts. Are Lovecraft's monsters really that interesting, or I am juicy. I am juicy hyped up because of the atmosphere that this author is able to create. Okay, quick shout out to In Praise of Shadows. He did an amazing video on H.P. Lovecraft. Yes, I know it's sort of like become a bit of a meme to just point out the fact that he was racist. But I actually think it's really important to know that, because you can really see it in his writing. But that's not to say I don't think you shouldn't read it. I actually think he was a really interesting writer. And his very clear fear for the otherness, which in real life was other people, but that obviously created these very strange stories. Yeah, he does create a cool atmosphere. Not all stories are hits, but I think it's worth dipping your toe into that world. And then I really recommend looking for writers who are emulating his style. I read a book, I can't remember what it's called. It's probably like Stories of Cthulhu or something. And I gave it away, and I really regret giving it away actually. But it's loads of stories of different writers inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. And I think overall I enjoyed reading that more than Lovecraft's book, but still don't regret reading him. Because after all, the guy's dead, so he's not going to earn any money from book sales. So how about it? Do you guys try to make your environment more immersive based on what you're reading? I started doing this while reading Dune. I put on some reading music inspired by the series, burned some cinnamon incense. Oh! I believe the spice is reminiscent of cinnamon. Yes, it is. If I remember correctly, yeah. It's a fun way to make the experience a bit more immersive. I'm about to start the Stormlight Archive, a series I've heard many good things about, and I'm gathering some ideas to do the same here. Just wondering if anyone else did something similar, and if you're willing to share your own setups. I like that. Oh! Like, I've definitely done the, matching the music to the thing. You can't be reading Lord of the Rings while listening to Howard Shore. And now we've got a really cool Dune soundtrack. Probably gonna chuck that on while I'm reading Children of Dune. But like, oh god, as far as some incense, I really like that. What holds me back from buying more ebooks? I buy a lot of books, but I also resell/donate a lot of books. However, with ebooks, you can't do this. You simply own it forever, and this gives me a strange anxiety. What if I drop $15 and don't like the book? Knowing that I don't like a book that I can maybe get half my money back is a safety net. I only really buy ebooks when they're on sale. Edit, probably should have mentioned this, but I do use the library a lot and have about half the time buy stuff from used bookstores. Mainly talk about new books, and when I say donate, this means donating to my library. If you don't want to, just don't. Like, I don't know what you want from people. We can't tell you how to spend your money. You have to figure that out for yourself. You're forgetting that ebooks are generally much cheaper than physical books to begin with, so you still come out ahead most of the time. Very good point. Very good point. That sounds reasonable on its face. So where can you resell books that you're confident you'll get close to half your money back? I mean, that's the other thing. I'm in the UK and I have no idea where. I mean, I can sell books. The only places I know I can sell books is like Music Magpie, maybe World of Books. I think they might buy books off you, but they're giving me, like, if I'm lucky, I'm gonna get like a quid back for them. So, yeah, if you live somewhere where you have the ability to sell on your books for a, like, let's say even a third what you bought them for, then you are very lucky, my friend. Oh, okay. Seems like a potentially juicy topic. What would your thoughts be about a living author delegating the rest of their series? I've been thinking a lot about writers like George R. R. Martin, Pat Rothfuss, this crazy pair, who have wildly popular series that have gone over a decade without conclusion, often due to the author's mental or physical health. When writers die without finishing a story, another author will often step in to finish it, and often the fans are even well satisfied with the results. See Sanderson and Wheel of Time. Other times, authors might turn to ghostwriters, but that comes with sort of shame and failure to acknowledge others' work that could, and arguably should, dissuade honourable authors from going that route. So, what would you think about an author handing over the reins to someone else? Have you seen it done? Would a certain amount of original author oversight make you more inclined toward it? Things that might be your biggest concern. Am I an idiot, and is this already common? Okay, wasn't it juicy? Like, I kind of feel bad for Patrick Rothfuss because I think he did come out and say the reason why he's not carried on is kind of due to a lot of anxiety, because I think by book 2 those books will become huge. Like, I became aware of them once book 2 is out, and they were massive, like 10 years ago. So yeah, I think that kind of paralyzed him for a while. So I empathize with that. That's fine. And I don't know, because of the style of those books, I don't think it's the end of the world if we never got a third one. Like, I actually really want a third one. I want some things answered, but at the same time, they're just books showing us chunks of this guy's life. So if he decided, yeah, you know what, you've seen enough of his life, that's it. That's fine. George R. R. Martin, on the other hand, I mean, I don't have a what's the phrase? I don't have a thing in this race. I don't have a horse in this race because I read the first 2 and decided I'm not that interested in carrying on. I've got what I wanted out of Game of Thrones, so I'm good. But oh man, I do feel for the fans who have been waiting since what, like 10 years before the show even came out. It's been a long time. And then have to watch him being like, I'm gonna help the show, I'm gonna help write this show. I think he's an old guy now. He's just enjoying working in TV, I think. So I don't think there'd be anything wrong with anyone asking another author to take over the reins from them. But I think that's going to be dependent on a couple of things. I think there should be some involvement from the original author. I mean, maybe if they've got notes and plans of where they were going to take it and they just pass that over, I could see that working. You know, if George R. R. Martin has an ending written down somewhere and he just passes it to someone and says, write it for me, I could see that working. If I don't like this sort of a ghostwriter doing that. That does seem shitty, but just like share the credit with the other person. Have them they could be co-author. So I don't see anything wrong with that. If that's the way that it's going to get done. Have I seen it? I don't think I've seen it while they've been alive, but you do have things like Malazan, where it's a world that 2 people created. So you kind of can be confident that whoever's book you're reading is going to be fitting to the world and the overall story, I guess. Yeah, George R. R. Martin, just hire someone to help you, dude. If that's the problem, Obviously, I think authors, if they've written their own books for that long, maybe they don't want to. I don't know. I'd be interested to see that happen. Here we go. Okay, here we go. What is YA? Recently, I've had a big perspective switch on what YA means, and it's left me scratching my head. In theory, YA is simply books written for teenagers, yet that is a very wide range of what is suitable. A book for a 14-year-old is much different than a book for an 18-year-old, not to mention that ultimately a large portion of YA sales are driven by adults, and so what the market favours skews more mature. If a book is written for adults but in YA, is it YA? What are your opinions? What makes, say, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson YA or not? I'm not expert. I'm no expert, just trying to learn about an unfamiliar genre. Age range, I guess? The current state of YA is very weird. Because I think the age that when I was in that age range, I think YA would have been things like, I don't know if Tracy Beaker would be, actually. That might skew a little bit younger. But you know what I mean? Though, like, the Jackie Wilson, but the even more mature things, because they could get quite heavy, but they're clearly made for a young audience. You know, you could have a parent with depression or something like that. It's been ages since I've read any of this. I think they skewed more towards drama. And then I guess like Harry Potter changed things, because you do have this more from children's books to what you could potentially argue as YA. And then you have Twilight. And now YA is a big mess, because I think you do still have stories that are the drama-y side of things. I actually think the state of LGBT books for that range, I mean, obviously I've not read that much, but I am hopeful for what I'm aware of and what I have read. So if you're a gay teen, I feel like you actually have some books aimed for you, and that's fantastic. But then I think it's when you go to the fantasy. I think that's when all fucking bets are off, because you have this genre that should be fantasy romance. Like, I think you used to have urban romance, and I think that used to skew to just be adult, where you'd have like vampire werewolf stories, but some of them would have some fucking like my friends were into a book that they said just turned into a lot of sex. But you'd have that as a category, and I feel like that's eaten into YA a bit, and that's how you get your actors. It's how you get the like fairy dick. You know? I honestly don't really know why they're marked as YA, because I've not read them, but no, I've heard extracts from them, and to me, they're adult, they're trashy, but they're trashy adult books, but they're being marked as YA. But then you also have some fantasies that could just be placed in the adult fantasy, and you wouldn't really know it until you start reading them. And for me, YA fantasy, if we're ignoring the romance bit, tends to usually features a teen character or a younger character. That in itself is not a turn off for me. Like, I adore his Dark Materials, but I kind of feel like that's an exception. Philip Pullman worked magic, and I think he just wrote a series of adult books that happen to have kids in, and so they just got put in the children's section. That's what he will tell you, by the way. He said that in an interview. He just wrote books that he would read, but the publisher said there's a child in it, so it's going in the kids section. But he did say that, ironically, that probably made it a bigger seller than it would have been otherwise. Anyway. So you have teen protagonists. You have simpler prose and a simpler, lighter story. And this can be quite subtle. So I started reading, I think, is it called Children of Blood and Bone? That there was a lot of hype around that at the time, and I was like really excited. I was like, oh my god, I've been waiting years for an African inspired fantasy. Yes, give it to me. And I started reading it, and I just kept pausing and stopping until I just actually I DNF'd it, but like not. I just sort of put it down one day and then never picked it back up. And then afterwards, I found out it is classed as YA. I was like, oh, that's why. Because I've been into my fantasy for years, and I think already as a teenager, the types of stories I was seeking were more complex, sometimes they were darker, maybe they were deep. There was a bit more, there was a complexity to them that you don't get in YA. That's not me trying to trash YA. You know, if you want to read YA because it's simpler, then go for it. You know, we don't all want to be reading like Malazan. You know. So yeah, it can be a subtle difference. But for me, when I start reading certain books, yeah, you kind of feel it. I rambled on this way too much. I've seen the timer on this recording, and it's way too long already. In summary, the category of YA is a mess, because you literally do have things that are aimed... Oh god, this is how long I've rambled, my screen just blanked out. YA is a mess because you have the books that are literally aimed at teenagers, and whether that is like literary fiction or fantasy, and you have that mixed in with fantasy romance. Just give fantasy romance its own fucking category. Because most of it's being read by like 20 and 30-year-olds. I should know, my friend is one of them. Make that its own category, please. And give teenagers their books back. For God's sake. Also, I can't remember who made the video, but there was a great video I watched, and it was about how TV does this awkward jump from like Disney dramas for kids, and then jumps to like sexy, violent shows like Riverdale without an in-between. And it was talking about like how tweens don't really have anything to consume. And I do wonder, I mean, I'm not an expert in children's books, but I do wonder if that's kind of an issue with books at the moment. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. I've been recording for too long, so I'm going to make this the last one. Do you read hardcover backs with the paper jacket on? First of all, I'm an audiobook listener. However, I still buy the physical books when I'm living the series. Currently reading... So I'm reading my current book, and it's a lovely hardcover of Isolate, and the dust jacket cover is gorgeous. Unlike most hardcover books, the actual cover For it, underneath is just plain solid colour. Of course, if you leave the jacket on, it gets bent, pinched, dirty, and even the inside folds get bent if closed wrong. This is 100% a first world problem, but I mean, aren't all book related problems a first world problem? But which do you prefer, removing the cover, just walking around with and having to read from a completely blank looking book, or deal with the dust jacket? It depends. If it's a short enough book, having the paper jacket on doesn't get that damaged. I think the only time I did this was with Rhythm of War, because oh my god, it's such a big book that it does actually start to make it awkward, and I did worry that I was going to wreck the paper jacket. So yeah, I took it off while I read that. But if it's a shorter book, it's usually not an issue. I usually leave it on. Well, I now have a lot of footage to edit. This was actually a lot of fun to do, and I really want to do this again. I maybe didn't get to roast people as much as I wanted, but just you wait until I visit r/writing because there will be no mercy. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you did, because like I said, I really want to do it again. And if you do want me to do it again, is there a book or writing related Reddit that you'd like me to check out? This has been fun. I've been Emma. Thank you for joining me. Bye!